finishes and factions catching action.
And good evening, finishers and factions fans, and welcome to the first episode of a new format of the podcast with myself and my co-host Adam. Adam, how you doing, buddy?
I'm not bad, mate. Not bad at all. But yeah, new format, not coming to you in a brand new way. We've decided to condense down a lot of what we've done in the past, whereas we've literally gone from opening credits to closing credits, giving you more or less a audio description of what happened in the episode. It's a case now that we're working to sort of condense it all down. It makes it easier for us to create, and hopefully gives you guys a little bit of an idea of what we found the highlights of each episode to be.
Yeah.
So how it works now is that this is all going to basically be one episode. PLEs at the moment we are thinking are going to be episodes within their own right. We're going to sort of figure that out as we go. But we'll basically break down our personal highlights from this week's Raw, NXT, and SmackDown all in one go, and make it just that little bit rather than having to record, produce, and publish 3 episodes a week. It's 1 episode a week with occasional additional extras for PLEs,
which then gives us the option, as and when we need to throw you guys some bonus content without killing ourselves trying to do so, which I think might make it a little bit easier. So we're going to jump straight in with Raw this week. Raw this week was from Omaha, Nebraska. And I believe we were told this was the 15th Raw to come from Nebraska or from Omaha itself. So it means it's quite a reasonable stable when it comes to wrestling in Ohio. And not Ohio, Nebraska, sorry, the wrong episode. Wrong location.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a case you're likely to have more of this sort of stuff than I am, because I've watched it. The way I've done, I've even changed the way that I'm prepping for everything now. So It's a case that I'm watching the episode and then literally afterwards making a note of what I felt were the most interesting parts of the episode.
Well, a little bit of history about wrestling in Nebraska for you. Nebraska has had one pay-per-view in its past, and that was Judgment Day 2008. The rest of the events that have been in Nebraska have all been either Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, NXT, or the old WWF house shows. I will say there was one main event that I can see off the top of my list, possibly like 2 or 3 in there altogether, from sort of early 2010 to 2015 area. So we've not had anything big come from Nebraska for a while, but hopefully that will change when we get there. Well, a little bit more into the future anyway.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, well, this one started with a Jey Uso promo. Really, it was what we were expecting to be a build-up for his match at Backlash at the end of the week with Logan Paul. But there was a few different bits that came into this one. We had a nice little visit from Paul Heyman. What do we call him now? He's not the wise man. Is he just Seth Rollins' bitch, or is that just the way that's going to work?
I think we'll find out more as weeks progress on what he wants to be called, and so far I think we're just going to call him Seth Rollins' advocate at this stage.
It was nice to hear that. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. Again, because normally when you see him as the wise man, you didn't really get a lot of that, and I don't think within the work with the bloodline that he's done, we actually had a promo as emotion-filled as this one was from Paul Heyman.
This is one thing that incredible. I picked up on as well. So, yeah, it's a case that whereas when he was in the bloodline, Paul Heyman was sort of very much he was a background character, if nothing else.
He was.
it's a case now that he's able to be a little bit more center stage. He's not the main character. He's still very secondary, but he can still sort of take center stage as and when, which is something that he did to phenomenal success uh, during the opening promo. Certainly, as it seems that well, basically he comes out and we find out later on that he tricks Jay into giving Seth Rollins a world heavyweight title shot on this episode of Raw.
Yeah, so that, I believe, was our main event of the evening, wasn't it?
It was, yeah,
And
yeah, with the new format, I'm not sure how we sort of balance this out now, because it's a case we've started talking about Paul Heyman and Jey Uso.
I think we
so
should just go straight into. We should finish it off with that section.
so sort of come back to it.
Yeah, we'll say
Okay.
we'll come back to the actual match itself a little bit later on in this episode, and we'll kind of push our way through briefly and just kind of see where we get. So a little bit of what was said here was, yes, he did trick Jey Uso into giving Seth Rollins that title shot a little bit later, but he's all out here kind of saying, you know, Seth Rollins has to be champion, because to be a champion, you have to have the power and the control, and Jey doesn't know what to do with that sort of power, where Seth does. He's been a champion before. He's been a top tier champion, so he's held, I think it was the heavyweight title he had at one point. He also had the Universal Championship, and that was a thing. You know, like he's had a lot of gold in the time that he's been within WWE. So it would make sense that they kind of, he's going to use that experience to try and kind of show Jey what's going on, because obviously Jay's not had he's had tag titles before, but he's never had a main title. So for him, like, it's quite a big one. Yeah, looking through this one, he's had the WWE Championship 2 times, the Heavyweight Championship once, the Universal Championship twice. He was an NXT champion. He's been an Intercontinental champion twice, the United States champion twice, Tag Team champion 6 times. There's a long list of partners there. He's done Money in the Bank. He's won the Royal Rumble. Yeah. He's done all sorts. So for him to be able to, he's got that experience. He knows with great power comes great responsibility, where, you know, everyone just seems to think that Jay's just a yeet specialist who gets lucky. I think the storyline with Jey Uso coming up to this point, especially with this match at WrestleMania, which we covered in previous episodes in the old format, you know, the long-term storytelling with Jey Uso has been great, especially with the tap out with Gunther and stuff like that. So it's kind of, the story aspect of it's been really good, but yeah, the experience side of things he doesn't necessarily have where Seth does, and I think Seth feels that he's a more powerful champion than Jey. But we then find out within this conversation that Bron Breakker is just stage 1 of the plan. Stage 2 of the plan is the World Heavyweight title. So what happens afterwards? Obviously, we have this match later. I'm not going to spoil the result now, but this line's got to go a little bit further. There's got to be more of an extended run to this storyline. I'm hoping this wasn't just a filler for Backlash and then possibly Money in the Bank, which is coming up in a month's time. But yeah, we find out, like I said, that Jey Uso says, well, the time and the place that I get to choose, we'll do it today and we'll do it now. And yeah, we finish off the show with that one. And then our first proper match of the show is was Penta and JD McDonough, which was a strange concept. We've seen a bit of JD since he come back from injury, but I'm not entirely sure where the Penta angle has come from here. Because Penta was looking at the Intercontinental Championship a little while ago, and that was around Bron Breakker's waist, and now Dom's got it. He doesn't seem to be too interested.
No, he seems to have
He shifted his
I'd say
focus.
he shifted his focus.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's. I'm going to be honest. I didn't really. The Penta, as much as I enjoy watching Penta, I think he's a fantastic. He's a phenomenal superstar. Always has been. He is not one of my highlights of this week. In fact, the match that comes after this is one of the was one of the ones that I was more interested in talking about. But yeah, it didn't really hold an awful lot of
Substance.
it. The Penta JD McDonough match was more there to further the Judgment Days storyline than anything else.
Yeah, and I mean we've been saying for months that we feel the end of the Judgment Day is not too far away, and yet somehow week in, week out, they seem to scrape through, and it's kind of annoying. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'd love to see a finale between Finn and Dom for the Judgment Day. Just, I don't know. I think there's been quite a few different angles teased. I think this constant teasing of breaking up the Judgment Day is getting a little bit tedious now. Either do it or give them a decent story run.
So I think that as much as it can come across as tedious, it's necessary.
Yeah.
Judgment Day have been around for a while. There's been a number of different faces to the Judgment Day, and yeah, it's there's going to be different odds and ends to it. They can't just unceremoniously give them the chop. It doesn't work that way.
Oh no.
We've seen them do that um, with other teams in the past, and all it serves to do is confuse the viewer, confuse the fan, because if they are then thrown directly into another storyline, the fans aren't paying attention to what's going on in that storyline because they're still trying to figure out what happened to the storyline they were in before.
Yeah, no, which is fair enough.
There's got to be a progression to it.
That certainly does, and I think the only thing I could see from this with the match going the way it went was JD's still not quite as fit as he used to be, but boy, that guy is going to continuously give everything he's got every time. Guy's a workhorse. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. If I'd have had an injury like he had in the way he did it, I think it would have taken me a little while to want to get back into the high flying side of things. You wouldn't have seen me doing moonsaults off the fucking top rope at that point, especially nowhere near an announce table.
But he wouldn't have come back unless he could do those things, because that's what as us as fans have come to
No
expect from him.
Yeah, that and that big ass five head.
Yeah, but as I said, not really what I'm certainly got not an awful lot more to say about that match. So it's more the next match that I'm more interested in.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I will just throw out here that during the course of this match, both Finn Balor and Carlito were told to fuck off by the referee and sent back to the locker room. One of the big sort of moves that I saw was at the beginning of the match. Penta kicked JD in the leg so hard he flipped. Like, it was a hell of a calf kick he got in. And then JD manages to pop off a standing Spanish fly, which I think was quite impressive. Chad Gable made a slight, what was it, the word, appearance, trying to interfere with this one behind the referee's back. And as normal, Penta finished this one off with a Mexican destroyer for the 1-2-3, or as he would refer to it as the un, dos, tres. But yeah, and like Adam said, the next match on the card was something that I wasn't expecting. I very much enjoyed it, and yeah, Adam, tell the
There were so many other ways to enjoy this as well. In fairness, as yeah, this match is more so introduced by during
backstage segment.
backstage promo where it appears that Grayson Waller was supposed to be gracing the ring for us.
I'm kind of glad he didn't.
Yeah, me too. But they magnanimously gave that opportunity up for for Austin Theory to have a match instead.
He kind of made it out like he was doing his homeboy a favor, when instead he was just sending his own lamb to slaughter.
Oh, 100%. He fed his mate. He fed his mate to somebody you're not wanting to feed anybody to at this point.
And that was the Celtic Warrior, WWE's big ginger nut himself, good old Sheamus. Oh, I love watching Sheamus. There is just something about the way he wrestles that it's not the most finesse. He's not a high flyer. He's just he's just good. He does everything to a high standard and makes it look good.
And the thing is that we haven't actually seen Sheamus on screen since the Royal Rumble.
No,
but it's not been mentioned. Nobody's made any sort of attempt to explain why he's not been on screen. He's just not been written in.
I was really confused because we saw him have a match against Bron Breakker for the IC title. Or was it for a number one contendership to the IC title? We saw him have a match with something to do with the IC title between just before the Royal Rumble, I'm sure. Then he came back for the Rumble and then disappeared. I get there's no storyline that needs him at the moment, but it's still a little bit like, well, there was no storyline before WrestleMania for him. A lot of the storylines in the build up to Backlash haven't really changed. So have they just pulled him in to try and see if they can use it to break A-Town Down Under through? Are we going to have a thing where it's kind of like Austin Theory was like, you know, I got my ass kicked because of you dick. Fuck you, I'm out.
I think this is the breakdown, basically. This is the breakdown of A-Town Down Under. And that's what we're seeing here. But yeah, I mean, I think it's generous at this point to start calling what we have here a match as such. It's more, it was more of a mauling.
It was.
Because Austin Theory barely got any offense going. And yeah, the guy just got absolutely done in and done over by one of his best mates.
But then if you think about it, when was the last time you had a returning superstar come back and lose their return match? It don't happen very often, especially not someone of the caliber and someone who's been as loyal as Sheamus. Like, yes, he's not really been featured a lot recently at all, but he could have just used that as an opportunity to be like, F this, my contract's due up soon. I'll go all elite, or I'll go to TNA, or I'll do something like that. No, he's stuck there. Yeah, I'm not being used. Cool. I'll sit in a hotel. I'll drive around. I'll help build a stage. I'm still getting paid. You know, he's not complained about it. I haven't seen him on social media going, "Oh, I haven't got a match. I'm really not happy about it. I've not been used. I've not got a storyline." You just see him doing other things.
Sheamus has got his own projects and everything going on at the minute.
He's been doing that workout show on as well, isn't he? Like the workout with Sheamus or whatever it is.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, from what I understand, it's gained a reasonable amount of popularity for it.
I mean, can't sit here and say, well, I don't know why that's happened. Sheamus is a decent bloke. He's one of those as well. Like you see on social media, a lot of these big fans that like you go to the airport afterwards, and he's always the one that's there taking photographs well before everyone else is pissed off. So yeah, it was quite a big one, to be fair. I'd say I really enjoyed watching this. I didn't have too many notes for it, to be fair. There wasn't a lot going on. It was a squash match. It was just Sheamus getting a warm up, I suppose.
I picked this match as one of my highlights purely because it was an in-ring return for Sheamus.
Yeah.
I've always been a huge fan of Sheamus, and will always be a huge fan of Sheamus. So it's a case that him coming back after such a long absence was noteworthy for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was sort of the reason I was more interested to talk about that than I was to sort of talk about anything else. But one of the other things that I'm also quite interested to make sure we make mention of from this week's Raw was the next segment, which was an in-ring promo between. Well, started off with an in-ring promo from Becky Lynch.
Yeah, it did. I'm just going to backtrack slightly because we said we hadn't seen Sheamus for a while. Sheamus' last singles match before this last one was August the 18th, 2023 in Toronto, where he defeated Edge. And then in that September, he suffered the shoulder injury that kept him out for best part of 18 months. So yeah, that's it's always nice to see Sheamus back. But yeah, Becky Lynch, someone that's been around for a long time that I'm not going to lie, I had not missed watching. Heel Becky Lynch is crap. Like
This version of heel Becky Lynch is trash. It's got there's no rhyme or reason behind it. It is a case that we are being fed this
when I watch WWE at the
aborted.
moment, I feel like I'm a toddler sat in a high chair being force fed stuff I don't want. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. It just seems to be so much of two people that, yes, have done a huge amount for the industry, but the industry doesn't need them anymore, especially when you've got the guys coming up from NXT into the main roster doing a better job than they currently are.
Yeah, it's, and I understand the historical significance of Becky Lynch. She was one of the four horsewomen, revolutionized the women's division in WWE, and paved the way for all of the female wrestlers that we enjoy watching today.
And to be
Not
fair,
taking away
she
from any of her achievements, it is just that, and I mentioned this to Rich off podcast a few days ago, a few days before we recorded this, and it's a case that I genuinely feel that Becky Lynch was brought back as
this is a huge boost for Lyra Valkyria. They're trying to use her to
yeah,
get Lyra over.
it was a
But
profile boost.
it was, and to give her, a match at Backlash against the one of the women in pro wrestling that has done the most. So one of, not the most. But it is, no matter what happens with this match, Lyra doesn't have anything to lose. If she wins, she's got a hell of a name under her belt. If she loses, her character doesn't get affected because she's lost to a future Hall of Famer. There's
No, and it's a similar circumstance to Tiffy Stratton versus Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania.
It was very much the same. Yeah, if Tiffy had lost, she lost to the greatest of all time in some people's opinion. And if she won, which she did, she had the biggest kind of feather in her cap that you can get. How many other people can turn around and say, "I beat Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania"? Not many women can say that.
Yeah, this is it. It's a case that, yeah, it
Yeah,
feels like Becky Lynch was thrust into this circumstance, into this situation. She didn't really want to be there.
well, we haven't
She
seen
doesn't
Bailey since
really.
she was attacked. So did Bailey get injured in a match a couple of days before WrestleMania, and this was a way of being able to write her out with the injury, or no? Because normally we'd see her again, and I don't believe we've seen her since Mania, have we?
No, we haven't. We know that for storyline purposes, they're saying that Becky Lynch is the one that attacked Bailey, which is, yeah, fair enough. It writes her out of TV for a little while. It could either be that she's got an injury of some kind, or it could be that because she's been quite vocal on social media recently. Um, in interviews and things like that in very much the same way that Karrion Kross has,
Oh,
speaking out against the WWE and sort of claiming unfair treatment and things like that. Is this WWE's way of retaliating? Because we know they've done this before historically, so it's
I
not
mean, we'll get into it a little bit
outside the
later.
realms of possibility.
But
Um,
I saw a quality
the-
meme this morning about Carrying Cross, which I'm not going to talk too much about because it does ruin some storylines. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But it was fucking hilarious. I think I sent it to you on
so
Facebook actually.
there is that possibility. I know there was a non-title match between Io Sky and Roxanne Perez next. And as much as a fan of Roxanne Perez as I am, I didn't really feel like this match was up to much, so
It didn't.
didn't really do an awful lot with it.
I will say before we go too far into this Roxanne Perez Io Sky match, Lyra Valkyria came out with a line during the promo, which I thought was fucking phenomenal. She turned after Becky calls her calls is it recycling she referred to her as? And Lyra Valkyria comes out and says, look, you're a fucking big one talking about recycling because you've been recycling the same moves and the same tired old act for years. And then comes out with it a few minutes later saying, I've defended this title more times than you've shown up for work this year. And I'm like, fair fucking play. It's about time someone stuck it to some of these part-timers. I'm like, nah, bollocks to you. I'm here week in, week out. I do my thing week in, week out, and you sit at home and just watch on Netflix and just kind of like, oh, that's nice. I could do that. It's nice to see some of these younger superstars taking it to these ones that have been around for a while and going, nah, fuck you, I'm not taking your shit.
Yeah,
Which is what
no,
Roxanne
definitely.
Perez does with Io Sky in the next one. She does not take very much shit at all.
Now, as I've said, I didn't personally get an awful lot from this match, so it's kind of okay. I'm more than happy to sort of gloss over it at this
Yeah,
point.
so Io Sky won this one. My notes consist of nothing amazing in this match, but Io came out with the win. And the best part about this match, after the bell rung, we got to see Roxanne Perez kind of look like she was trying to give Io a bit of sort of like a big up, like, you know, that was a great match, well done, thank you for that. When in turn, it was just Roxanne Perez holding Io's attention so Julia could basically jump in and attack her. And we finish it off with Julia and Roxanne Perez beating Io down. Now, we don't have any. Last time, Rhea came out to save Io's ass, but Rhea wasn't there this week. She was in Australia doing some promo stuff for the event happening in Perth in October. So it was basically just fair game for Julia and Roxanne Perez to give Io a kick in after she'd won the match. But yeah, I
Yeah, pretty
really didn't
much.
have a huge amount for this one. The same as the next one. I did not have a
Well,
lot for the next match, but
the only thing I will say about this match with Io Sky and Roxanne Perez is that it's nice to see because I've been saying for quite a while Roxanne Perez is due a call up. I think this is I've said this before with something else. I remember saying it. I genuinely believe that this is Roxanne Perez's call up.
well, mm, yes and no to a point. I think at the moment we are going to see a lot of Roxanne Perez, Julia, and some of the other top NXT stars performing double duties for a few weeks. So A, they can finish off their NXT storylines. B, they can start their main roster storylines, and C, so WWE can see if the move from NXT to main roster is warranted. Now, Roxanne Perez and Julia are two that should definitely be on the main roster on a permanent basis. Is Raw the right place for them? I'm not so sure.
So
With previous weeks, we've both sat here and said that SmackDown has been the superior show, followed by NXT and then Raw kind of sitting at the bottom of the ladder, not doing much. I think they could both be wasted on Raw. I'd like to see one of them go to SmackDown. At least they have an opportunity there to do something a little bit more, I think.
So, not diminishing Julia under any circumstances at all, but I think she, for the moment, belongs in NXT. I don't
That's
think
fair
she's
enough.
ready for main roster. Roxanne Perez, completely different story. I think that Raw is actually the perfect fit for her, despite what we've been what we've been saying, because Roxanne Perez has that quality to potentially shake things up enough in Raw to allow for some different angles to be written, to start improving the quality of the program that they're churning out.
I hope the
Because at the
quality
minute,
of the product for Raw gets better. Because at the moment, we started off this podcast with me going, dude, I can't watch this NXT shit. It is killing me. To the point now where I'm like, oh, dude, NXT was epic, but Raw was shit.
yeah, and if anything, the next next match was one of sort of the things that sort of epitomise why Raw is, in my view, not doing very well at the minute, because the next one was Rusev's in-ring debut
Well,
or
return.
re-debut.
Yeah, re-debut, or however you want to rare it. So once he'd finished his contract at AEW under the name of Miro, yeah, having him come back to AEW to WWE's not a bad thing. We have both said this though. They're going to give him a bit of a push at the start. He's going to have a couple of matches like this one where he's going to go in, whip the, get his stuff done. It'll all be done quite quickly, and then eventually he'll just go back to being the standard mid carder that no one ever really talks about, which I think is a shame.
At the minute, his in ring re-debut, if you like, um, against Otis. Don't get me wrong. Love the fact that that Otis is getting that on-screen time, because I genuinely think he's underutilized. This comedy shit they get him doing, I think he could be so much more given given the right opportunity. Putting him in a squash match with the Bulgarian Brute, however, not my idea of good booking. Quite honestly, my idea of good booking wouldn't have seen Rusev return at all, for the very reason that Rich has just finished explaining, is that he'll have a couple of weeks. He may even have a pay-per-view match, maybe two.
He can't see them whacking a belt on him at any time soon. I really can't.
See, I think they'll give him an opportunity at a belt.
Yeah, but they're not going to put it on him, I don't think.
They'll give him an opportunity at a belt, and then he'll fade into the mid card. Did it in WWE the first time round. I think they even stuck a belt on him the first time round. He then went to AEW, pretty much the same story, faded into the mid card, and yeah, just the only reason that I picked this as a highlight was because I know how generally popular Rusev is.
One thing I was a little bit confused about was when Rusev was in WWE originally, his wife Lana was his manager. She went with him to AEW. They got divorced. They got remarried. And then they both re-signed to WWE, but Lana has not re-signed in a manager capacity. So, are we going to see her in an in-ring capacity at some point? Or is she going to be one of those that just gets fucked off on the next lot of cuts because they've got nowhere to put her and they regret signing her?
I think honestly only time's going to tell with that one.
Yeah.
Because I was never a huge Lana fan. She was nice to look at, don't get me wrong. But as far as an in-ring talent or a personality, no. She was there because he was there. And it could very well be the same thing again.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's a good point. I don't know, if we see her in an in-ring capacity, I wouldn't be too concerned. I just don't. I think the women's division at the moment has got too many people, so it kind of works out what's going to happen. And for a women's division that has an awful lot of superstars, I wish we'd get to see a little bit more of some of the ones we don't get to see as much of. I don't know about you, but I'm getting bored of seeing the same 5 or 6 people week in, week out.
Yeah, I certainly see where you're coming from with it. It's one of the reasons why I've been so hyped on the fact that Zelina Vega's finally had a title put on her, that they're finally giving her something to do other than act in a valet managerial capacity.
And can we have Rhea in a storyline that doesn't involve a world title, please? Like, I love Rhea. I think Rhea's a great wrestler, but you don't see her when she doesn't have a title storyline. And then she comes back, she wins the title, she's there for the entire title run, loses the title, and she disappears again for a bit. Can we have Rhea in a storyline where maybe she's not going for the big title? Maybe she's, tag title or the IC title or the. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, something a little bit more varied.
Yeah.
Stick her in a pool of wrestlers that don't get the same amount of attention as she does generally.
Yeah, she gets an awful lot of attention, and yes, she's talented and she can do well, but I don't need to see Rhea week in, week out, with this. That storyline got, especially before Mania, did get very tedious.
Samey?
Yes. Yeah. One thing I will say though about I'm going to take us back on track here with the Otis Rusev match. For those football fans that also listen to us, and by football I mean American football, we had Matt Rule in the building with a couple of the Nebraska university football team in attendance, which was always nice. Now I believe their nickname is the Cornhuskers. It's the NCAA is not something I watch a lot of. I do spend a lot more time watching the NFL, but yeah, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. What a way to pop that one down, eh? What a name as well. I think it's brilliant.
It makes a lot of sense.
Well, yeah, Nebraska is definitely a big farming state, so to be able to have that. But yeah, Matt Rule's in his 3rd season at the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and he hasn't got a great record, but he's doing all right.
He's not necessarily got a bad record either, from what I understand.
Yeah,
but
so
again,
within his reign at Nebraska, he's currently 12 for 13, and but he's got an all-time record of 924 to 430. So yeah, Nebraska have got a half decent record there, and they've claimed some national titles as well. The most recent one being 1997, and yeah. They've got a fair few rivals as well, and they've had a couple of Heisman Trophy winners, which you got to be lucky to get one of those. Last one of those was 2001, though. It's Eric Crouch. The Heisman Trophy, for those of you who don't know, is basically like the college football player of the year. It's the most, it's the MVP of the season, out of all the league.
fair enough. I don't have a huge amount of interest in American football personally, but always nice to branch out to different listeners out there. I know that.
Well, actually,
before the main event,
it does link in to the next section, the American football reference, because the next bit to this one was Pat McAfee going face to face with Gunther in the ring before they face it Backlash, because Gunther decided after losing his title at WrestleMania that he was going to attack Michael Cole, and then when Pat McAfee decided to step in and say, "Hey, you don't pick on a 60-year-old man," he got choked out at ringside for it. So obviously with Gunther's suspension, it was lifted for a sanctioned match at Backlash against Pat McAfee. And Pat, as we know, was the punter for the Indianapolis Colts.
He was. He's also enjoyed some relative success when it comes to uh, in-ring WWE career as well, as he's had a few matches down in NXT and different. He's had a WrestleMania match, SummerSlam match, I believe, as well. So he's no stranger to in-ring competition. But yeah, the fact that he's being pitted up against Gunther is it feels a little bit sacrificial lambish, and yeah, apart from a short term storyline like the one that they're pushing at the moment, can't really say that I see the point.
No, no, I think this is just. I think this was just a tiny little filler. I don't think they had anything to do for Gunther. You can't just have a guy drop a title and then not have anything. They've got, and especially for a guy who spent 80% of his time in the WWE with a strap around his waist, it just felt a little bit. Yeah, you got to do something with him, and I think they probably could have done something better than this. But Pat McAfee has spoken about the fact that he wants to become, he quit the NFL to become a WWE wrestler. It just didn't happen straight away.
No, but a lot of that comes down to his age.
Well, yeah, he was 29 when he retired from the NFL. They said that most of the time, WWE don't recruit anyone over the age of 30. So that was his clock ticking. He did get a foot in the door, but he's not, like I said, a full-time in-ring competitor.
No, I mean, uh, Pat is 38 years old.
He is now.
He's not. It is a case that he is not going to be. He's not going to be an in-ring competitor, not a regular one at least. And I don't know. I just think if they're going to pit Mac against, if they're going to pit Pat against someone, let's not make it somebody like Gunther.
Yeah, Kira Tozawa, maybe. But then I suppose it did work nicely into the storyline, because obviously where Gunther was fed up of the clowning around, and who's the biggest clown in WWE outside of Jey Uso? Pat McAfee. So, he's definitely, it did follow through. It made sense in some aspects, but didn't make sense in others. Well,
Yeah,
to me
I
it did
suppose
anyway.
so. But coming full circle, we're
It
going to
is.
come back to talking about Jey Uso and Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, and Braun Breaker.
The World Heavyweight title match, or the World Heavyweight title fight at the end of the night. Whew, that was a mouthful.
It was.
Wouldn't want to say that too many times after a few beers.
But yeah,
this one didn't have a lot to it in the start of it. It had a bit of a slow match itself. Didn't have a slow start. The atmosphere did. I suppose the best way to think about it. The first thing that I picked up on through this entire match was Paul Heyman trying to get the crowd to sing Seth Rollins' entry music, which a few weeks ago we had him on, on television saying, "Oh, I'll never sing that. I don't like it. I don't like Seth Rollins." And then all of a sudden he's in Seth's corner trying to persuade everyone to sing his music, which was an iffy one. And I will throw one of my highlights from this match itself, and we've seen him do it a few times recently against different people. But the spear reversal into the pedigree, he did it on Roman. He's now done it on Jey. Like I mean, if you fuck that up, you're taking the top of someone's head to your balls, right? That's the worst thing that could happen. But yeah, it looks so good.
I struggle to think of anybody else who would be able to pull that sort of move off. Seth Rollins is, whether you love him or hate him, you can't sort of deny that the guy is talented.
I mean, he's a revolutionary. He's a visionary. He's got really bad dress sense too, but we're not going to go into that one.
In fairness, since Paul Heyman, since he's been hanging around with Paul Heyman, it's a case that his dress sense seems to have improved.
I'm sorry, did you not see
So
the
that's
glasses last week with the eyeballs painted on them?
look. I said improving. It's a progression,
It is.
as is everything else.
Yeah, Seth Rollins has decided he no longer wants to be the Sam Smith of WWE. He's getting a normal wardrobe.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now,
carry on.
the match itself, sort of concludes with
It
we
got
have
better the longer it went on, the better it got. But that was because we got a surprise entrant. The
we've got
honorary Oos. We did to start off with. We only had one. The second one did come out at the end of the match. Oh yeah, the honorary Oos decided he was gonna come out and join the fun. So Mr. Sami Zayn's music hit. Bron Breakker is looking up the ramp, waiting for Sami Zayn to come running down from there. And instead, Zayn takes a ticket from the old Shield book and came flying out the crowd and hit him instead. Sami Zayn versus Bron Breakker was a bit of a messed up one last week. Yeah, half decent match to watch, but you knew which way it was going. But this week, I think Sami Zayn had Bron Breakker's number. You know, I mean, the fact that he ate a spear whilst trying to hype the crowd up was a little bit one of them, but was the ultimate underdog, isn't he? He'll eat every finishing move you can possibly throw at him and not have an issue with it.
yeah. I mean, Sami Zayn came out to the ring with his ribs taped up. He's still hurting from his last match. It's a case that did he really have any business being there?
Well, he was. It was. I think it's because Seth Rollins basically told him that if you move to SmackDown, you can have a match against the winner of Randy Orton and John Cena after Backlash. So he was trying to bribe him off Raw. But why? Why is Rollins so afraid of Sami Zayn? Or
Well,
not necessarily
the
afraid.
point
There was.
the point of that was that it was Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn. They've more or less come up together. It's a case that they are friends outside of the ring, and he was trying to help his friend because they've gone down the normal route of if you're not with me, you're against me, and if you're against me, you're probably going to eat a curb stomp at some point.
Or several. You never just get one curb stomp, do you? You always get more than one.
No, this is it. Well, there is that too. But yeah, it's a case that we had Sami Zayn come out to try to balance the equation because during this match with Seth Rollins, he had Rollins had two people in his corner who were likely going to do anything they could to make sure that Seth won the match. Even though Seth is perfectly capable of winning matches all on his frigging own.
So he's been doing that
Whereas
since the Shield split.
yeah, pretty much. He's not very often that Seth Rollins doesn't have somebody in his corner to help him win by any means necessary.
Well, exactly. And then, like we said, there was a second surprise to come out, and that was CM Punk. He decided that he was going to come and try and even the odds a little bit more as he came running down with a steel chair in his hands, which is always nice to see. CM Punk with a steel chair.
Yeah, well,
Makes me a happy
he sort
person.
of he used the steel chair initially to take out Bron Breakker.
Mm-hmm.
By throwing the chair to Bron Breakker and then super kicking the chair into his face. And then comes down and starts laying into pretty much anybody that got in the chair's way.
I mean, we both know, and if you listen to this podcast, you're a wrestling fan, you know that Punk and Rollins do not get on. So for that chair to be introduced was definitely a more fun aspect of it. So I have got down here that Jey Uso wins this one but I've got a feeling it was classed as a no DQ because of Punk in the
So,
chair.
according to WWE website, the match ends. The match ends with Seth Rollins defeating Jey Uso via disqualification.
But champion's advantage means that Jey Uso gets to keep his title.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, that's fair enough. But yeah, they basically finished with the credits rolled on this one with Jey Uso, CM Punk, and Sami Zayn standing. Well, it's mainly Punk and Zayn that are standing in the ring. Uso is kind of sat in the corner going, "Fuck, that hurt." From his encounter with Rollins and Braun Breaker. But that leaves the question. I feel we're going to have a tag match at some point between Jey Uso, CM Punk, and Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and a third. Now, I have no idea who that third person is going to be. I don't even want to speculate because I'd probably fuck it up pretty hard. But I think it's one of those at some point we're gonna find out who that third person is and be the final member of Seth Rollins' version of Evolution, I suppose.
Yeah, this is it, and they've got plenty of time to spin that out. So
Oh yeah.
I don't think we'll find out about it anytime soon. But yeah, the only other thing that happened in Raw, and it sort of happened after Raw went off the air, was that there is a clip circulating around where Logan Paul attacks Jey Uso after the cameras go out from within the crowd. So comes out of the crowd, lays a titanium fist into Jay's jaw, and basically runs off like a scared child afterwards.
Oh. Logan Paul acting like a little bitch. What a surprise there.
I know, right? And on that message, I think that was all we both had for Raw.
It was. Yeah, it's pretty much all I've got. So, yeah, we'll move on
Yeah.
to NXT. Right. So NXT this week actually came from the Performance Center. They seem to be spending more time at the Performance Center than they do out on the road at the moment. But we started off.
That is sort of the deal with NXT that I'm aware of, at least, is that they don't spend as much time out on the road. I think it was the developmental territory for the WWE. It was a case that they didn't spend as much time out on the road for them to be able to spend more time training.
Yeah, I suppose that's one upside to it. I just don't think the Performance Center is as big as it could possibly need to be, capacity wise, for the amount of people that are wanting to watch NXT over things like Raw and SmackDown. I know I definitely want to watch NXT over Raw. Still have a preference for SmackDown when it comes to the quality of the programming we're getting. But yeah, it does make it a little bit more intimate, I suppose. So you get a bit more of an indie feel to it, like a local show because of how close you are. But I suppose
Exactly.
everything's got their own swings and roundabouts to whether they're better or not. This first match of the NXT this week, though, was I felt it was a little bit of a letdown. I'm not gonna lie. So the first match was Hank and Tank with Joe Hendry versus Dark State in a 6-man tag match. And yeah, apart from sort of the interference towards the end of the match, there wasn't a huge amount in this one that I really wanted to talk about. Obviously, like, you get to see Joe Hendry, which is a good point, but I think that's probably one of the only things. And even then, this match with Joe Hendry really didn't do for me what I thought it was going to do, which was a bit of a disappointment. I'm not going to lie.
So this match just sort of acted as a bit of an extension, if you like, off the back of
TNA
something
episode.
that happened off what happened at TNA, where Trick Williams came and interfered. And Trick Williams did very much the same in this. In
He did.
fairness,
That was the thing I was talking about at the end of the match. Actually, Trick Williams comes out and basically attacks Joe Hendry. Well, he doesn't attack him. He kind of pulls him off the turnbuckle, doesn't he? And then the two of them just end up kind of running up the ramp, having a bit of a fight, while the rest of the other four get on with it in the ring.
Yeah, and I suppose the big news story with this one for me is that do we really have to have another 6-man tag with Dark State?
No, I hope not.
I mean, Dark State as it stands, me and Rich have talked a lot off recording about it. It's a case that there's no character development, there's no personality.
And
They're just
Saquon Sugars
guys.
is a lazy fuck, because out of the 2 or 3 6-man tag matches Dark State have had, Saquon Sugars ain't been part of it. He's been at ringside, but he ain't actually been in a match yet.
Yeah, it just.
And the other 3 are boring, I'm not going to lie.
I was going to say, it's fucking dull.
Cutler and Osiris look like they have the ability to be big superstars. But, yeah, Saquon Sugars doesn't have that ability. And the other guy's name I can't even piss and remember, so it shows, Dion Lennox. He probably should have stayed in the NCAA and playing football. They probably might have gone a bit further. Not earned as much money, but they might have gone a bit further.
Well, as it stands, Cutler James, pretty sure he is he is off the first season of LFG.
Possibly.
Osiris Griffin, not a clue.
No.
Dion Lennox, I know he's a football star of some description. And Saquon Sugars, he could be he could be no, I'm not going to say the next part.
Yeah, no, he's really not.
What about what I said after I said it?
Really not the sort of. Yeah, no, he just doesn't. Dark State without Saquon Sugars would still be Dark State. They're still. Yeah, he doesn't add anything. He doesn't take anything away by losing him in the concept. He's just there. There's nothing else that's part of it. And
he's a warm body. There's no character development, and they're just they were exciting to begin with because they were new. We didn't know who they were, and it's a case that we didn't know what their agenda was.
Yeah.
And about 5-6 weeks down the line, we are in exactly the same position. We still don't know who they are. We still don't know what they're like as individuals. We don't know what their agenda is, other than to kick shit out of anybody they can possibly get their hands on. So, yeah, what's the point?
So, from what I can see here, Saquon Sugars was in the indie circuit for a little while under the name of Lucky Ali. He was actually in AEW for a while as well. He debuted in 2022 in AEW in a taped match for AEW's Dark Elevation, where he lost to Frankie Kazarian. But yeah, you've not seen. He's probably, out of all of them, he's probably the only one that's actually a proper wrestler, I think. Like, I say proper wrestler, he's had more experience with pro wrestling, and Saquon Sugars was also on NXT's Level Up last year. He lost to Tavion Heights. And then had quite a big knee injury, so yeah, that's why we've not seen much of him.
Right, okay. So, yeah, I still don't feel like I know them any better. It's still, I can't say that anything they do is on brand or on character for that particular individual. And like
Dark State's just a bit of a letdown.
You've then got the other side to this match where you've got the TNA World Heavyweight Champion in Joe Hendry.
Yep.
And you've got the NXT Tag Team Champions in Hank and Tank. We know who they are. We know what they do. And it's a case that, like, one member of that trio in Joe Hendry isn't even a part of the WWE. And we know who he is. Yeah. Whereas we've had Dark State on our screens for, as I said, about 5-6 weeks now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But the reason we know who Joe Hendry is because we believe in Joe Hendry, and he's just incredibly over. I think, and the internet side of it was something that I think they were trying to push through and see if he's actually as over as he is, as they think he is, and he definitely is. But WWE aren't doing Joe Hendry any favors, and they didn't do Hank and Tank a favor in this one either. Because why do you have the current tag champions and, like you said, the TNA heavyweight champion losing to nobodies? Literally nobodies.
It's. I understand how they made the loss more legitimate in the sense that Trick Williams came in, dragged Joe Hendry out, leaving Hank and Tank on their own. But these are, as you said, they're four nobodies, they're four upstarts, they're four rookies who have just taken out the TNA Tag Team Champions.
And the NXT Tag Team Champions and the TNA Heavyweight Champion. Yeah. So these, I mean, yes, Dark State with this have got a reasonable sized feather in their cap. Do they deserve it? Not in my opinion. Are we going to see them getting more reasonably large feathers in their cap? Probably. Do they deserve it? Again, not in my opinion. There's nothing that Dark State have that anyone else in NXT needs.
Yeah.
NXT doesn't need Dark State. Dark State needs NXT.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, yeah, that's the way I've looked at it.
It's just not. It's not interesting. It's not grabbing my attention anymore.
Yeah, I mean, when we first saw them, it was like, oh, what's this? What's going on here? Oh, they've just beaten up Ricky Saints, or they've just beaten up, Tony D'Angelo, or. But now they didn't even have a particular pattern when they were just running around kicking the crap out of people either. It was just like, oh, there's a guy who stood on his own. Let's kick the shit out of him.
Yeah, you have similar issues at English football games.
Yes, for example,
groups of people running. You have groups of people running round. Groups of people running round, kicking the shit out of random people. It's just the way it works.
Yeah,
but
this wasn't it at all. To be fair, we went from this into and I think that's all we really need to say about that Hank and Tag match, the 6-man tag. To be fair, we move on from that with the Dark State win into Carmen Petrovic backstage talking to, I think it wasn't Sarah. Was it Sarah Schreiber? No.
Yes,
it was Sarah Schreiber, and you get. So like Jada Parker then kind of comes in and we basically have Carmen Petra say that Jada choked it stand and deliver. And then we find out from that we're going to see Carmen Petrovitz and Jada Parker going one-on-one a little bit later. Which, is on paper, could be a half-decent match. Not going to lie to you, it probably wasn't one of my matches of the day, but it was on paper it's got something. The one match that I did really want to have a little conversation about was this was the next match actually, which was the Kalani Jordan Zaria match. And the reason I wanted to talk about this one is because yes, we've all seen what both of these women can do. But every time Zaria comes out to the ring, I become more of a fan. And I can't even tell you why. It's just, she's a very talented superstar. But she's very gripping as well. There's something about the way she works that kind of goes, oh, I'm not going to finish doing what I'm doing. I'm going to watch this match. Which is not something I normally find with the women wrestlers. Normally, I'm not too interested in their storylines. Especially, like, you go back sort of the last sort of... If you take the last 5 years of women's wrestling out of it, women, and go back to the point it was 5 years ago, that would have been the perfect opportunity during a WWE show for me to go make a cup of tea, and I wouldn't have cared about what I missed. So I really wasn't that interested. But the Zaria stuff has kind of got me at the moment. Obviously, you see her working with Solruka occasionally. I'm not sure how that's going to work now. Solruka's got a hands on. Is it the North American title she had hands on?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how much we're going to see of them in tag capacities now. Solruka is currently holding the women's North American title, but it could be an interesting storyline in the build up to that. I just hope they don't split them up, because I actually quite enjoy watching them.
Yeah, there is an endearing quality to the pair of them. Now,
And I
if we're
found
going to
out
talk,
something this week as well that I didn't know. Did you know Solruka was dating Tyler Bate?
yes.
Oh, I didn't. I was like, yes, the man from Mustache Mountain is doing well for himself.
Yeah, no, and if we're going to talk about this match, which honestly I wasn't intending to,
I mean, there wasn't
I
much
don't.
here that I put down, to be fair. I just really enjoy watching Zarya. The fact that she put Kalani Jordan through the barricade was quite fun, though.
Yeah, do you know what? And it's kind of the fact that Kalani Jordan is involved in this match is sort of the reason why I don't want to talk about it. I've said on numerous occasions before that she's fucking dull.
She's like Dark State. She's had no character development. Her storyline doesn't go very far, and her in-ring capacity is not as good as it probably could be.
No, the worst thing is that Kalani Jordan has had character development, and she's still dull. The bitch is boring. Like I don't mean to be rude or anything, but it's a case that I just don't. I don't. There's no excitement for her to come out.
There's no pop from the crowd either, is there?
No,
Not even the
it's
crowd are that interested when Kalani Jordan comes out.
like she's tried taking on a really mean edge to her recently,
Yes.
which I thought, do you know what? That'll inject some life into her character.
Nope.
No, she's the most boring, mean heel superstar I think I've ever known in my life.
We thought Becky Lynch's heel turn this time round was bad. Kalani Jordan, welcome to that number one spot.
No. I'm sorry, Becky Lynch's heel turn this time round is bad, but it's not boring bad, it's just bad.
Yeah, this is boring bad.
Yeah, it's like I may be that it's not a it's sort of a hill I'm willing to die on, but Kalani Jordan for the next round of cuts, I don't see that she's got any distance. I don't see that she's got any distance in her character. I don't think there's anything there.
I mean, yeah, no, I can fully get behind that. The one thing that I am gonna get behind though was this next match. Now, before we go into the next match, we did have a little backstage thing with Tony D'Angelo talking to Wesley Tyson DePoint and a gentleman whose surname is Igwe, but I can't remember his first name and I didn't write it down.
I'd have to look back through my historic notes to find that out.
Yeah, I would too. But anyway, yeah. So Tony D'Angelo is backstage talking to these three gentlemen. And Wesley basically takes a cheap shot at him. And Tony says, well, you know, if you think you're a tough guy, we can go and go out to the ring now if you want. At which point Wesley's like, I would, but I've got a battle royale to win. And that battle royale is for the number one contendership at Obafemi's NXT title at Battleground.
Yes.
Yes. I just wanted to double check. I didn't write that one down. I'm just going off memory here. And this
Tyreek Igwe.
That's the one. Yeah.
It was bugging the shit out of me.
I thought it might do, but I didn't want to be like, yep. I knew you'd go looking for it. I could have Googled it to be fair, but it didn't. I don't feel it mattered quite as much as it did. So yeah, like I said, we've got a battle royale for the number one contender for Obafemi's title at Battleground, and there is a few people within this match that I did not expect to see here, to be fair. One of them being a former WWE superstar who quite a few people would know from when he he used to like taking long walks. We obviously, I'm talking about the man who is now known as Elijah in TNA, but used to be known as Elias in WWE, and obviously everyone liked to walk with Elias. Um, this battle royale was great to watch. I did really enjoy watching it. There was a few people within it that I was a little bit like, I'm kind of glad that you've gone out quite quickly. Mainly one like Ashante Theodonis. Trick Williams slapped that motherfucker so hard he basically backflipped over the top rope and hit the floor.
You know, there was a part of this match where like this was a 25-man battle royale. So
It
there were
was.
25 human bodies in this ring, all competing to stay in there at the same time.
Yeah, we only
At
got
first,
3 of them with entry music coming down to the ramp.
yeah. Well, can you imagine sitting through 25 entrances?
Oh no, I fully get that, I do. But who backstage sits and goes, right, I've got 25 homies here. I'm allowed 3 entrances. Who am I picking? Right? Because why did that have to be Ethan Page for one of them? I think we didn't have entry music for Elias, but he did have he had an entrance. Yeah, it was him with his guitar. Very Jeff Jarrett like that guy. Very Jeff Jarrett like that guy, but slightly more talented in the ring. And yeah, there wasn't. I'm just trying to think. So you had Ethan Page. Elias had one. Was it Trick Williams that got one?
Yeah.
And I think there was one more. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think it's horrendously important at this point.
It's not. If you're that interested in thinking and trying to correct me, you can watch the episode yourself and then you can contact us on both Twitter, TikTok, and email. The Twitter and the TikTok handles are at Fin and Fan Pod, and the email is finishersandfactions@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of this week's episodes, and if there's anything you'd like us to talk about in future episodes specifically, or any storylines that you need catching up with but don't have the time to watch, that you want us to kind of go, hey, dude, this is how it goes.
So, well, coming back to this match as it goes, I started trying to keep track of who went out when.
I did try, but I gave up.
I got to number 4, and that was about as far as I got.
I also tried to do it with the Andre the Giant Battle Royale over WrestleMania weekend, and my entire notes page basically just turned into such and such eliminated such and such eliminated this person. This person was eliminated by that person, and that person eliminated that person and that person at the same time. And it was all very like, yeah, it was more notes on that than I think I've ever written for one match in my entire life. So I basically just kind of went through to the last 4. After Sean Spears walked Elijah over the top rope to the back, and Trick Williams decided he was removing Yoshi Inamura after and Ridge Holland in one shot after Inamura was he was on the front end of a rather large fuck up on his behalf, actually, because Inamura managed to knock his tag team partner Josh Briggs off the turnbuckle whilst he was trying to take out Ridge Holland. Ridge Holland he was trying to whip off the side? Might have been someone else, but yeah, Josh Briggs was on the side, busy on the apron, busy having a bit of fun with another competitor when Yoshiki Inamura accidentally knocked him off, and then took Ridge Holland out in one attempt in the same attempt. So I think that's the way I've written it. I believe it was Josh Briggs and Ridge Holland on the outside. We then saw Joe Hendry's.
before we go any further, it's worth mentioning that later on, after this match finishes, we do actually find out that that this 25-man number one contenders battle royale, I think, is actually going to be Yoshiki Inamura's last WWE match for a little while, as he announces he's going back to Japan, which isn't the first time he's done something like this.
Is it
So
not?
I'm not sure how. He did it once before to try and get it. He did it once before and guilt tripped Ava into giving him a Josh Briggs a NXT tag team title opportunity.
Hmm.
The only reason I'm not sure if this is if why do I get the impression that you didn't that you'd have no notes or no memory of this?
It might have been when I was off ill at the beginning of the year.
No, it's more recent than that.
That might be one of the episodes that you've done. Towards the
Very
towards the
possible.
end of the last season of Finishes and Factions, it was getting to a point where our scheduling was not lining up to save our ass. So you actually got more episodes with either one or the other one of us than you did with both of us, which is part of the reason why we decided a reformat was the best way to do. And yeah, we're going to try this one for a little while and see if it works a little bit better for us.
Yeah, that's it. But yes, we'll come back round to the match anyway. Final four ended up being
Well, that was
Sean Spears.
Ethan Page, Javon Evans, and Miles Bourne.
Yes. So
And I'm going to throw out here that does Miles Bourne look uncannily like his father?
it's not his dad. I know who you're talking about. It's not his dad.
Pretty sure it is.
They just look. They just look very similar. Because I had to Google it, and Miles Bourne's parents are undisclosed.
So he's not Randy's.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Hmm. Fair enough. Did you know he's the only partially deaf wrestler employed by WWE?
I do.
There we go. Fun fact for you if you
I
didn't know.
did. I did even go to the extent of researching why why he's partially deaf, but I've since moved on. So,
Oh, that is brilliant. Would that have something to do with the condition he had when he was born? The persistent
yeah,
pulmonary hypertension.
that's the one.
Yeah, no, that's not pleasant. But the
No,
fact that
it's
he
not. But the fact that he's managed to make it to all the way to WWE
yeah, no,
is
and do
very
well.
impressive.
So we get to the point, like we said, the last four: Ethan Page, Miles Bourne, Sean Spears, and Javon Evans, and it finishes. Say it finishes. Miles Bourne ends up drop kicking Ethan Page over the ropes after Javon Evans had been tossed out. Yes, Javon Evans was the first one to go, leaving the final three of Miles Bourne, Ethan Page, and Sean Spears. Now, someone threw Sean Spears over the top rope, but both feet didn't touch the floor. And then Miles Bourne drop kicked Ethan Page over the same rope, knocking Sean Spears and Ethan Page onto the floor, meaning that Miles Bourne is the winner of the Battle Royale and becomes the number one contender to Obafemi's NXT championship. I'm not going to lie, out of the 25 people in that Battle Royale, Miles Bourne is probably number 24 of people I thought was going to win this Royal Rumble, this particular event. Any person
Bearing
I
in mind that
knew,
there were at least five of them that I know I'd never heard of before.
well, there was a couple of guys from LFG in there.
Yeah, there was two from LFG made an appearance.
You had the two for
There was
TNA.
several from TNA.
I only noticed Elijah and
There was more than that, because there was a guy with green hair who was formerly of NXT that now operates in TNA.
yeah,
There was
because he
also
was having an issue with someone in the ring, wasn't it? I can't remember
yeah,
who it was. He was having disagreements with.
but there was also two from Evolve.
Yes, which I haven't actually watched any of, but
I haven't. One of them was ejected rather quickly. Um, the other one, a gentleman by the name of Sean Legacy, made it to. I think he made it to the final six in the end.
I'm not 100% sure. You
I think he was eliminated by Javon Evans in the end, as it goes. So, but yeah, Javon Evans gets ejected from the ring by both Sean Spears and Ethan Page. And then Miles Bourne manages to double eliminate both Spears and Page out of the ring to win the battle royale. And yeah, as it goes, I wouldn't have called that. I wouldn't have called that one to go with it, but it is laying up a rather interesting storyline coming up.
know,
Because Miles Bourne has been a bit of a quiet member of the
the No Quarter Catch crew. Yeah, so obviously the No Quarter Catch crew is Miles Bourne, Charlie Dempsey, Tavion Heights, and oh fuck, I can't remember the last person. There's four, isn't it?
Yep, there is. Um, and I can't remember her name either.
Ren Sinclair.
That's the one.
Yeah. So
I knew
yeah,
you'd get there in the end.
we had all three of these guys. Well, actually, was Charlie Dempsey in the match? I know Tavion Heights was in the battle royale.
Charlie Dempsey was eliminated third by it with no help from Miles Bourne, as it goes. It's one of the reasons why it sets up a rather unique or a rather interesting storyline arc coming up for it.
It does,
Um,
and I'm actually a little bit intrigued by how they're going to do this. Um, and I think it's going to be interesting how they do it as well. But before we get to that, we do have a little conversation backstage with Jordan Grace and Sarah Schreiber. And I did not realize, compared to some of the other women in the women's division, how short is Jordan Grace?
I know, right? I'm so
Like,
glad it wasn't just me.
so Jordan Grace is having a conversation with Sarah Schreiber about the fact that she has to have a match against Julia to go on to face the winner of that match goes on to face Stephanie Baker at Battleground for the NXT Women's title. And Izzy Dame comes in on one side and Lash Legend comes in on the other one. And compared to these two women, Jordan Grace is tiny. Like she doesn't, the top of her head doesn't even come up to the bottom of Izzy Dame's boobs. That's how short Jordan Grace is. And Lash Legend, I'm not sure if she's been in the gym a little bit more recently, but fuck me, she's chunked up a little bit. And it's not like, oh my God, she's been eating too many donuts and she's fucking built like a brick shithouse. Like
Yeah, no,
Jordan Grace is as well, but Lash Legend's huge.
Lash Legends has always been that way, in fairness.
Might have just been the camera angles sometimes that you look at her and don't think she's as big as she is, but she wide. Like I'm a big bloke. Like I think I'm about 6'2", 6'3", and so like probably closer to 200 pounds than I should be. And she makes me look tiny, and I'm not exactly a small bloke. It was it was an interesting one. It basically finishes with Jordan Grace saying that once she's won the title at Battleground, she'll be back for both Izzy Dame and Lash Legend on the other side. And that leads us into, was that Jada Parker versus Carmen Petrovic?
Yeah, Jada Parker versus Carmen Petrovic was the next match.
Yeah,
Big story out of this one was, or more the big story out of this one is that obviously the since the Netflix era began, Carmen Petrovic has been carrying on with Ashanti Adonis.
they've broken up now, haven't they?
They have, yes, and yeah, I think this is basically them trying to find out if Carmen Petrovic is strong enough to stand on her own, almost.
Yeah, and from this match, I would say no. Yeah, no, actually, I think at this point you could probably add Carmen Petrovic to the same list as Kalani Jordan is on for the next round of cuts.
I am not going to be that quick to add her to that list, only because I feel like she's it's it's not been long enough for her to have been on her own for us to have seen everything there is to see from her. She was an interesting competitor when she had Ashanti Adonis at ringside, bearing in mind that Ashanti Adonis didn't really do an awful lot.
Yeah, no, he
So
wasn't really. I don't think I've actually seen him in. Has he been in ring competition properly
no,
since? No, that's what I'm pointing. Yeah, he's been spending a lot of time backstage and like the back of promos and things like that. But yeah, it's not really. Could he be one to go soon as well? Like,
I think he might be. I think he is going to be, unless something happens drastically. He will most likely be in the next round of cuts whenever they happen to be. Um, Obviously, we can only speculate on cuts. We don't want anybody to lose their jobs because it's not a very nice thing to do. Both me and Rich have lost jobs before now.
yes,
Um,
not with the sort of
and
pay that these guys get.
no, I think I'd have been more pissed off if I'd have lost the pay that these guys are on, to be quite honest. Um, but yeah, it's never a nice thing because it leaves their families and themselves in uncertain circumstances in some cases, especially when WWE superstars lose their job as they're subject to like at least a 30-day non compete clause,
Yeah,
which
so
means that
that was
they
quite
can't
a big
work.
change brought in with Triple H actually, where it used to be under Vince, it was 90 days. If you left WWE or WWE told you to go fuck yourself and leave, 3 months without being able to appear anywhere else must have really hurt financially, unless they were being paid for that 90 days to make up for it. But
Yeah,
the fact that Triple H has reduced it down to a 30-day period actually makes it a lot better for the talent that are working there, which means that, you know, we could soon get an opportunity to see guys like Braun Strowman on different promotions. I really hope he doesn't go all elite, but probably could. And some of the other guys that were released in the previous cuts after WrestleMania.
so Braun Strowman actually is going to be starring on a cooking show.
Braun Strowman's going to be starring on a cooking show.
Yes.
That's funny because The Miz has just announced today that he's going to be the host for the American Gladiator,
Yeah.
which means he might be off TV for a while, and I can't think of anything better.
Yeah, hopefully they snatch him away for good.
I mean, to be fair, he's been doing all right, kind of giving Carmelo Hayes a little bit of a push, and he's been useful there. But now Carmelo Hayes has got the Andre the Giant Battle Royale behind him. You know, the match that was brought in to give superstars that needed a bit of a push that they don't actually get. But yeah, we'll see where that one goes in with it. With this one though, it ended up with Jada Parker winning what was quite an easy match, to be fair. And she also manages to land a few on Thea Hale, who came out to help Carmen Petrovic as well.
See, I'm still really interested by Thea Hale. It's a case that I'm genuinely interested to find out what they're going to use her for now that she's come back. She's a former Chase U alumni,
That
which
is that was something I was gonna bring up actually, because I haven't made any notes about it, but we do see um Andre Chase in this episode, along with the
yeah,
two guys whose names I can never fucking remember, that are basically just the Chase U ass kissers.
I know one of them's Kale Dixon.
Yeah, that is. I only recognise the name because you've said it. I wouldn't be able to point at the TV and be like, "Mum, that's Kale Dixon." You know what I mean? Like,
I'm
but
more worried about why you were talking to your mum, to be quite honest.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
But yes, we're seeing a lot of promotional material for the return of Chase U, as that seems to be official now. They're going to bring that back.
Well, he's got new uniform. He's in a
He
tracksuit
has.
rather than a polo shirt and a jumper.
I mean, it's
So,
better than him being in the gravy stained shirt he was in before.
is that the one where he had the freaking? Who was that match against? He got squashed by someone, but was it Obafemi?
No,
Was it Moose?
I don't think it was Moose either.
Either way,
I
he
know
got
who you're
squashed
on
by
about,
someone
and
a
I
few
can't.
weeks back, but
Yeah, he
and
did.
squashed pretty hard. Might have been Trick Williams actually. Javon Evans. It was It was one of the big NXT 4 that we see a lot of. And we then are told in a backstage segment that with Ava and Joe Hendry, basically Ava's dressing Joe Hendry down and then says, actually, you know what, I've spoken to Santino Morello, who we should all recognize was currently the TNA general manager. Is he the TNA GM? Or is he one of the
He's the
um,
TNA. He's the
head of talent
um.
relations? No.
Oh, he's the head of authority. Is his official job title, but even that I've seen bits from TNA recently. Even that's in contention. So yeah, we won't go into that too much just because I don't know an awful lot about it. But
That, and we are a
yeah,
WWE based podcast, not TNA based podcast. At the moment, we could probably in the future, if they decided to add another 4 or 5 hours to the day, pull a bit of TNA and a bit of AEW out of there. I don't want to do AEW myself because I'd spend all the time talking about the timeless one. And you guys don't need to know about the
obsession.
obsession. Yeah, whore we all adore.
Right.
But yeah,
Yes.
and so it works out that at Battleground, for the first time ever, a TNA title is being defended on an WWE programming. So not Javon Evans, Trick Williams and Joe Hendry are going 1-on-1 for the TNA heavyweight title at Battleground. Now I think that is going to be a cracking match. A phenomenal match, so to speak.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be.
Depends on how they play it.
It does. It does. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a WWE star holding a TNA title at this time. I think it's a 5-year deal they've got between the two brands. I don't think they're going to do it in the first 6 months. If they do it, if they had have done it in the first 6 months, I think they probably would have tried to do it on the grandest stage of them all, or at one of the top 4 pay-per-views. So either it could either be sort of SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, Mania next, so end of this year, next year. I don't think we're going to have it done at something like at Battleground. I really don't think that's the way they're going to do it.
I think it might surprise you.
I mean, I'm always down to be surprised. It's the joys of professional wrestling, I suppose. The next bit, we had a promo from a team called OTM, which I know fuck all about. So I'm hoping Adam's done some research or he knows who they are.
No, it was not a highlight of NXT for me, so
Okay.
I didn't bother.
Yeah, so we had an OTM promo. Saw a little bit of Wesley on the phone talking about some bait being taken. We then see that little bit from Yoshiki Inamura where he tells Josh Briggs that he's failed him a few too many times and he's going back to Japan. And the few members of the culling that are left basically pop into one side and say, "Hey, I think you could be the problem here, dude," and sort of have a little word with Josh Briggs, which is an interesting line of action to take because I haven't really seen anything from Josh Briggs that would make it look like he's the problem at all. But we will see where that storyline goes. And then, like we alluded to earlier, with Miles Bourne winning the Battle Royale, we have a backstage segment with No Quarter Catch Crew celebrating, and Charlie Dempsey saying that Miles Bourne won the Battle Royale for the team, but it will be Charlie Dempsey that is taking on Obafemi at Battleground. At which point, Miles Bourne's a little bit like, "Excuse me, my good sir, but I believe you can go fuck yourself. That would be my opportunity that I've earned." And then basically feeding Charlie Dempsey to the beast himself when Obafemi comes in to the into the picture, basically just to congratulate Miles Bourne on winning the Battle Royale and saying, "Oh, I'll see you at Battleground." And yeah, Miles Bourne says that basically just repeats some of the stuff that Charlie Dempsey has said about how he'd love to kick his head around and he's just a bit soft. And at which point Charlie Dempsey starts to sort of cower back and, "Well, I didn't say that. No, that's not what I said." And Miles says, "Well, next week, Charlie, you can show me how to deal with Obafemi." And he'll see Obafemi at Battleground. So, yeah, what was supposed to have been Charlie Dempsey taking that opportunity off Miles Bourne and using it to further his own career is basically turned into Charlie Dempsey's going to get his ass whooped by Obafemi next week as a warm-up for Obafemi whooping Miles Bourne's ass. Because I am going to throw, if Miles Bourne takes that title off Obafemi at Battleground, I will be pissed. Because I'd rather have seen Javon Evans take it off him at Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, I've got to admit I was pleasantly surprised by how they went about getting with the winner of the Battle Royale. The fact that they're now sort of playing into it, which makes a lot more sense. It's yeah, I wholeheartedly endorse these messages as it goes. It it's opening so many more doors, which
To some of the lower
honestly,
card guys as well.
yeah, it just feels like the main roster could stand to learn from what NXT are doing.
Yes, I would completely agree with that, especially when all we've seen when it comes to the NXT title recently has been, well, since Moose had a go at trying to take it off Obafemi, it's literally just been Javon Evans and Trick Williams. And I do like watching all three of these superstars. Obafemi and Javon Evans a little bit more than Trick Williams because I am not one of those guys that wants to pump that trick. I'm actually quite bored of Trick Williams. He's NXT's version of Drew McIntyre, I think. It's just a whiny
I
little
feel very
bitch.
much the same way. Since he lost his title at New Year's Evil,
Yes.
it was a
First
case
ever
that
NXT programming that Finishes and Factions did, by the way.
yes, back when we didn't know who any fucker was,
Right.
it's a case that ever since all we've seen is Trick Williams
Trying.
try again and
Again.
again and again and again
Yeah.
and fail every single time.
As far as I'm concerned, Trick Williams is the Drew McIntyre of NXT. He's just a crying, whingy little bitch.
Drew McIntyre wished he got as many opportunities as Trick Williams got.
I mean, that's a very good point. Talking about opportunities, though, our final match of the evening was between Julia and Jordan Grace for an opportunity to meet Stephanie Baker at Battleground for the women's NXT title. And my notes for this were not very big at all. I basically just got here that Jordan Grace walked out of this one victorious, and I think the only reason she did this is because Julia's got a concussion, because there were two moves that happened in this match that I spotted, and there could be more, where poor Julia got bounced off the top of her skull or the back of her head a lot harder than she should have done. And yeah, I generally think that this match could have been a damn sight better if those two, I'm not going to call them botches, I think I'm going to refer to them as missed moves, because yeah, she completely missed the move and dropped Julia square on her fucking dome, like quite drastically as well. She may not be very tall, Jordan Grace, but when you're being dropped on your head from 4.5 feet in the air, it's still going to hurt.
Oh, 100%. And there's still damage to be done there for it.
I'm
Don't
not
get
sure
me
though if
wrong.
it was a setup or if they were mismatches or missed moves. Sorry, whether they were purposefully missed. If it was a shit, not a, yeah, whether it was done to try and enhance the storyline. Don't think it was. Um, I'm just concerned that Jordan Grace is going to take the title off Stephanie McCurr, and someone in the near future is going to end up injured, because it's not the first time in the last few weeks that she's mismoved, like a mismatched a move, and it looked as though it's gone quite wrong.
Yeah, I sort of know what you mean. I don't think they're ready to lift the title off Stephanie just yet.
Yeah, I really hope they don't, to be fair. I think she's doing a phenomenal job, being the face of the women in NXT. And I actually think
Yeah.
Stephanie's probably doing a slightly better job being the face of NXT than Obafemi, which is strange. Like I said earlier in the episode, I'm not normally a big fan of women's wrestling, but Stephanie McCurr is a very talented woman. And the fact that they
In
chose
fairness, you
her
can't.
to be the double champ over Julia as well shows a big thing by NXT. Yes, Julia is
Yeah.
currently getting to play it and Raw and occasionally, but yeah, Stephanie, yeah, it's probably the better wrestler, but she's doing so well with NXT at the moment. I think they'd be stupid to try and move her up there unless they've got someone to step in as the face of women's wrestling in NXT. And we sure as
Yeah.
fuck know that's not going to be Kalani Jordan taking her spot.
I certainly fucking hope not.
Be another Roman Reigns situation.
But yeah, no, Stephanie Vecchio is not ready yet to move up to, or it is not her time. I'm not going to say she's not ready, because 100% she could move up to the main roster tomorrow and do really well
You mean like
if
Fraxium
booked
have
in
done?
the right way. Yeah,
I'm not going to spoil too much because they're going to be in the SmackDown section of this episode. But yeah, no, Stephanie Baker has definitely got a lot more to do in NXT, but she's definitely got the ability to go and make a massive impact on the main roster when she goes to main roster.
well, while we mention Fraxium, it may well be the best way to say that. Yeah, we know that Jordan Grace walks out of this match victorious. It's a case that she's
She's the
basically
number
going
one
on to
contender.
face. She goes on to face Stephanie at Battleground.
Yeah, she
Which,
does.
do you know what? I'm actually really rather looking forward to that match.
I'm not going to disagree with you there either. I'm definitely looking forward to that one myself. But
But
for me,
what we'll do,
is I think that is the end of our NXT coverage for the week, and we will make a crack on with SmackDown. All right, so we will move quickly into this week's episode of SmackDown, and this was from Dayton, Ohio. A little bit of WWE trivia for you here, Adam. This is the place where Hulk Hogan lost his title to Yokozuna many, many years ago.
fair enough.
Learn something new every day.
We won't dwell in history for too long.
We won't.
Yeah, plenty to talk about and not much time to talk about it in. So yeah, I mean, first match.
The
I
first
mean, was there
match,
anything before the first match, or
not that
no? We went straight into the first
it
match.
was, yeah, which was Damian
And
Priest and LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa in tag team action.
which is a main event quality match, and we're opening the card with this. And then I think the reason I latched onto this match so much because yeah, the match itself was decent.
It was.
It's just a case that it was more of a case that this was the match we got to open SmackDown with, whereas nothing in SmackDown was nothing in Monday Night Raw was anywhere near this good.
No. And
What the fuck?
the night before Backlash as well, where you expect everything to be toned down a little bit because the guys are going into a PLE the night after. Especially, with this first match, we've already got three of, the one of the matches in this match for the first time as well. So, the only person that's missing would be swapping Solo Sakura out for Mr. McIntyre, who does make an appearance towards the end of the match. This one was kind of setting up for LA Knight and Damian Priest to kind of get themselves a little bit of heat for tomorrow night, I think. A little bit of anger, a little bit pissed off, a little bit...
Typical dysfunctional tag team. We used to have this with Team Hell No.
Mm-hmm.
It was a case that they can't stand one another, but they won anyway.
Yeah, and without having to go into too much detail, yeah, like you said, yeah, they can't stand each other. They won anyway. It worked. And then it kind of, I don't know. Apart from the fact that it was just generally it was a decent match, but there wasn't a huge amount of stuff within it to tell you about. I was actually more interested in the second match on the card for this one as well, to be fair, which was again another tag match.
I mean, oddly enough, so was I, and I know precisely why you were.
Well, yeah, I was excited for this one because we got to see Zelina Vega wrestle in some tag action, considering she's just won the Women's United States title, as a singles competitor. It's nice to see her in a bit of tag action. It's also nice when you have to get to see Chelsea Green and Piper Niven stuck in a situation where they could possibly lose, which is more common than not. But yeah, the reason I was looking forward to this, and I saw a spoiler on social media before I got around to watching it, and it was because the one and only Alexa Bliss made her return to SmackDown this week.
Yeah, so she competed alongside Zelina Vega in her first match. Her first appearance. Well, her first match. No.
We haven't seen her since the Royal Rumble. Oh no, she was in the Elimination Chamber, wasn't she?
She was in the Elimination Chamber, and this is. I've got to admit, I'm reading at the moment from WWE's own coverage, and even they're saying that it was her first time competing since the Royal Rumble. So even they seem to have forgotten that she was in the Elimination Chamber.
I don't think she. Yeah, she was in the Elimination Chamber. Yeah, according to Google, it's just done that. WWE have fucked that one, haven't they? We'll point that out to their social media team. And then I would remember they fired half of them last week. So yeah, that's probably why that mistake was made. But yeah, this one was quite nice. Obviously, anytime Alexa Bliss comes back to the WWE, it's a good thing. The only big bits I picked up out of this match was Zelina Vega hit a stacked up 619 on both Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, which was, it takes a lot to be able to swing yourself around Piper Niven to hit Chelsea Green in the face.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then Alexa Bliss managed to pull off the win with the sister Abigail DDT onto Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green? 100%.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep, SmackDown, we're going to keep short and sweet because SmackDown was pretty much short and sweet. With the new format, we're trying to kind of change that. Instead of giving you the play-by-play, it's more of a storyline change. There wasn't much of a storyline to this, apart from the fact that Alexa Bliss has come back. It'll be interesting to see whether we see her next week or whether this is just a little one-off appearance until she's ready to come back, as it was her home state of Ohio that we were in.
Well, this is the thing, and it's not the last time we see her tonight. But if we move forward and talk about what happens next, which is the. Do you know what? Actually, so we actually get an in-ring promo from fucking Charlotte Flair.
We do, but before that, we see Los Garza kick the living shite out of Ray Phoenix backstage, and we have Andrade coming in to check on him. So there is still quite a big chunk of beef between Santos Escobar and Los Garza and Ray Phoenix at the moment. We will keep you updated on how that one goes.
Yes. As it goes with the Charlotte Flair promo, that was actually pretty short and sweet, thankfully, because it was a case that she came out, basically gave props to Tiffy, who beat her at WrestleMania.
That must have stung a little bit.
Well, the thing is that Tiffany pointed it out during the run-up, is that Charlotte Flair went into that match with the most to lose. Either way, Tiffany was protected.
Yeah, no, and her character was protected, and it was nice. But yeah, once she got booed out of the ring, thrown her toys out of the prom, yeah, it was brilliant. Charlotte Flair gets booed harder than Hulk Hogan now. It is brilliant. We should start calling her Charlotte Hogan. But yeah, no, she got booed out, threw her toys out the pram again. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be an injury coming soon, followed by a divorce, you know. There seems to be a cycle. We then see her...
married her latest victim yet?
No, she hasn't. She's only just got rid of the last victim, poor Andrade. But yeah, no, we see her backstage arguing with Nick Aldis. And he basically says, look, you need to grow up and stop throwing your toys out the pram. At which point she kind of walks off towards her SUV, going, take me to the airport. And then the door shuts, and little Miss Bliss has got out of the back of Charlotte Flair's SUV and is staring her down. I think, well, I'd love to see Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss have something else go on, just to have Alexa Bliss beat her and hopefully retire Charlotte Flair.
Oh, that would be nice. I look forward to that day. But what we got on the back of the in-ring promo was, do you know what? I'd actually class this as a bit of I think this is some people's idea of a dream match, realistically, because we had Nia Jax versus Jade Cargill, two of the most powerful women in the WWE today, faced off in a ring in a WWE's women's titles #1 contenders match. And from what I can remember of this match, it was a case that Jade Cargill pretty much had it won.
Yes. It was Jade only up until there was some interference, wasn't there?
Yeah, so we had some interference from
Naomi. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I haven't got written down what she did, but she was definitely there.
Well, Tiffy was out at ringside to watch the #1 contenders match.
Yeah, she was sat next to commentary, wasn't she? Sat next to Wade Barrett.
And Naomi came out to attack Tiffy. She attacked Tiffy at ringside, distracted Jade, who then got taken down by Nia Jax and an Annihilator. So Nia Jax is now the #1 contender for Tiffy's Women's World Championship.
Which is nice because obviously Tiffy cashed in that Money in the Bank briefcase to remove it from Nia's possession, coming up to a year later because Money in the Bank is 3 weeks away this weekend. We're going to have a rematch at Money in the Bank, I think. This is going to be beautiful.
I just hope that they don't drop the title back to Nia Jax for it, because it would just invalidate everything that Tiffy's done.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. She needs to keep it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And she needs to lose it. To Nia Jax. Yeah, well, to be fair, yeah, you can drop it to anyone but Nia Jax. Don't.
Even if she drops it to Jade Cargill at SummerSlam.
Oh, that could be that. Ooh, I like that. That's not a bad shout. Yeah. Jade Cargill at SummerSlam. Yeah. Talking about sort of like, we're up and coming guys coming through. With Jade Cargill being one of those that we've not seen a lot of her, but she's dumped herself right to some pretty major storylines and doing very well for herself. Someone else who's doing very well for themselves with their recent move to SmackDown would be Fraxium, the former NXT tag team title holders. Look like they've pretty much made their full-time main roster run a thing. This is the third week in a row that we've seen them on SmackDown, and they've gone and called out the Street Profits.
Well, they came out during a Street Profits in-ring promo, which not only was painful for the Street Profits to perform, it was a case that it was painful to watch as well.
Yeah.
After the TLC match that these guys won to retain their championship, it was the Friday Night SmackDown before WrestleMania. These guys are still hurting. And
it was a hell of a match, though. That match should have been on the WrestleMania card. Triple H, you fucked up.
Yeah, 100%. It's a case though that Fraxium come out. They basically they're trying to talk themselves into a title match, but instead end up talking themselves into a non-title match against the champions, which we all know. You win against the champions in a non-title match, you're pretty much guaranteed a future title shot.
Well, pretty much. And that's what happened.
Precisely what Fraxium did.
They went and stunned the Street Profits.
Them like government mules.
They did. And it was nuts. I quite enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. The next match I didn't think so much of. My notes for this one are very much one line. The next match was Carmelo Hayes versus Aleister Black. Aleister Black won the match. It was a half decent match. Wasn't great, wasn't amazing, either or. And to make things, slightly better for it, The Miz managed to run in at the end and eat yet another black mass. The next match was Los Garza versus Andrade and Rey Fenix. All I can tell you from this was it was a pretty even match, but Rey Fenix and Andrade came out of that one. And we did have a little segment in there before that match started. It's like we had the competitors come out, went to the segment where we see Motor City Machine Guns telling Fraxium they did really well in their match. And, it's going to be the two of them teams together taking over the tag team division, and DIY basically come in and give them both an ass whooping and backstage and leave them there. And then we pretty much get to the main event of the evening, which I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't think was that great. The main section of it, the main match, the main event of the evening when it comes to matches was the Los Garza Andrade Rey Fenix match, which did not live up to the hype it should do for the last match on the card. But the final promo at the end with John Cena was half decent, to be fair.
Yeah, so it is a case that John Cena come out and cut a pretty standard John Cena heel promo, to be quite honest. I don't need this. I don't need you. I'm the last real champion, and Randy Orton hasn't got a hope in frigging hell of taking me down at Backlash. So,
I mean, someone did try to take him down. I thought it was Miles Bourne, but Adam said it wasn't Miles Bourne.
No, but there is a theory that it could be either. So it was pointed out to me by somebody else that it could be one of two people. And there's I sort of can't deny the logic behind it. One of them's Ricochet.
No.
The other one is Sean Spears from NXT.
I mean, it could definitely.
It's down to the tattoo work on the assailant's arm.
Yeah, well, we all know that it's more than likely going to be Sean Spears because Ricochet is busy bashing WWE on Twitter at the moment because he's a bellend. But yeah, and then after that masked assailant attempted an RKO, Cena is kind of holding his title up, and then all of a sudden Randy Orton comes out and pops him with one instead. So he did get to eat that slice of humble pie, which is always good fun. But
that was pretty much SmackDown in a nutshell, to be quite honest.
I haven't got much more for it either, to be fair. It was pretty... SmackDown this week was the better of the 3 shows, but it wasn't as...
Second.
Yeah, with NXT in the close second, but SmackDown weren't great. NXT would have been better if some of the matches they had in there just weren't there. I think that's the easiest way to put it.
If they had different matches, it would have been better.
No, if they just taken out, or it was the Miles Bourne winning the battle royale that really kind of confused me. To be fair, they just
I think we're going to see with that we're going to see that come good. I can promise you.
I hope
That's
so.
going to be an interesting storyline.
I hope so. But until the next episode, ladies and gentlemen, which will be Finishes and Factions does Backlash, I think that's all from me. Adam?
Yeah, and that's all from me as well. Peace out, homies.
See you at Backlash.